Bow, dow, bow, dow, dow. Dow, 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 dow. Hit it. All right. Welcome to the Coach's Sons podcast. My name is Chris, and if you can't tell, I am solo dolo. I am left to my own vices here. I don't have the beginning track to our podcast, but this is a holy hell emergency podcast out of the Coach's Sons, straight from the trade deadline. I am recording this at 6:57 p.m. Eastern Time. We are an hour removed from a flurry of deals. I'm going to do my very best to review them the best that I can. I think I'm just going to go almost team by team and just be like, hey, this is what they added, this is what they lost, because going trade by trade is a disaster. Along the way, I'll call out individual trades, I think, but I'll try and keep this short and sweet. So let's start. This is my podcast, so we're going to talk about the goddamn Seattle Mariners and what they did yesterday evening around midnight Eastern Time. We went and landed Eugenio Suarez, and we did not give up very much at all to get it done. Call him a rental all you want, but goddamn it, this team is ready to rock. I couldn't sleep. I didn't go to bed till about 3 in the morning. After the news, it didn't even matter that we just lost our series to the whatever the fuck you want to call them, Athletics, but everything's good and well. The even better news is Suarez is playing tonight. Hopefully I get this out to you as soon as possible and you're listening to this as you're watching the Seattle Mariners play, because it'll be the only game on at that particular time. But the Diamondbacks were in town, actually, because they are about to play the A's in Sacramento. Suarez was able to get on the team plane. He is in Seattle with the squad. He's playing tonight. What did we give up? Tyler Locklear, solid first base prospect, and two relatively solid reliever prospects in Hunter Cranon and Juan Burgos. Again, please don't think I'm doing this for each one. This is my podcast. This is my team. And this is actually the main reason that I'm doing this goddamn thing right now by myself, because I have to talk about what the Seattle Mariners did, what Jerry Dipoto did, and how this team's ready to make the next step. This has been the most successful trade deadline of my existence as a fan, in the way of, holy hell, we're going for it. We're a couple days removed from getting Josh Naylor, who's already made a couple impacts, defensively and at the plate. They went and got Caleb Ferguson, left-handed reliever from the Pittsburgh Pirates, but this was the icing on the cake. Cannot wipe a smile off my face. We are ready to rock and roll. I would argue that the front office finally did their job, and now it's up to the players. We're 5 games out of the division behind the Astros. We are tied for third in the wild card with the Texas Rangers. We will be playing them starting tonight. So season starts right now for me. We have a brand new revamped lineup. We've got new energy. This stadium better be rocking. I cannot tell you enough how excited I am. They just can't let me down. Jerry Dipoto and company did their job. The team is there. The team is ready to go. The pitching is set. The bullpen is good enough. The lineup is now a scary lineup, top to bottom. You can make an argument for 8 or 9 having some, iffy spots, but I do not care. If we're able to come at this 1 through 7 with some of the best bats we've got going right now, give me the Seattle Mariners. Give me to the World Series. I cannot wait to get into North Carolina so that I could bet these guys to take everything to the next level. I am pumped. With that said, I'll stop getting off my soapbox. I wasted about 5 minutes of your time. I'm going to try to go team by team, what they added, what they subtracted. I'm going to start trying to go division by division, because this is a disaster. If you followed along at all, congratulations, because it was a flurry of deals all day long, and even more so from the 5:30 to 6 o'clock time frame Eastern time. But Houston Astros, their big deal was getting back Carlos Correa from the Minnesota Twins. I'm not happy as a Seattle Mariners fan. He waived his no trade clause to go there. He's going to play some third base now that Isaac Paredes is done for the probably the season. He's out for a couple months now. But Carlos Correa is a big ad for them. The other ad is a left-handed bat that they very much needed, especially in the absence of Yordan Alvarez. We've got Jesus Sanchez coming from the Miami Marlins, and I guess insurance, or they didn't know they were going to land Correa. Last night, they got Ramon Urias from the Baltimore Orioles. Who did they give up? They gave up some cash to get Correa. They're going to be paying him for the next couple of years. He's still under 3 years, about $100 and some odd million left. The Twins forked over about $28 million, which is crazy to me, but we'll get to the Twins here momentarily. But we got Matt Mikulski, Ryan Gusto going to the Marlins, and we've got Twine, the wrong sport, but Twine Palmer is a baseball player, and he is on his way to the Baltimore Orioles. So those are the main deals that the Houston Astros made. I'm going, like I said, division by division, and I'm not thrilled that the AL West pretty much stood on business and made moves to make their teams much better. The Texas Rangers, I would argue their biggest deal is getting starting pitcher in Merrill Kelly from the Diamondbacks. Clearly, the Diamondbacks are sellers, and they like to sell to the AL West. So Merrill Kelly on his way to Texas. Phil Maton from St. Louis also on his way to Texas. And the Rangers got another arm. Minnesota Twins, as we said, already a seller. Danny Colombe. I butchered his name. I'm sorry, Danny. But you know what? You're a Ranger. I don't care. So Texas Rangers went pretty heavy on the pitching. They do have a lineup. We've talked about it ad nauseum, Andrew and I, as far as this lineup is scary once they're healthy and ready to go. They seem healthy and ready to go, which is why I pointed out this is a super, super, super important series for the Mariners and Rangers alike. But what they gave up, Rangers fans might know, but for Phil Maton, they gave up Mason Molina and Skylar Hales. For Merrill Kelly, they gave up Cole Drake and David Hageman and Mitch Bratt, and they gave up Garrett Horn for Colombe. So those are your deals for the Texas Rangers, the biggest one being Merrill Kelly. So some big deals coming out of the AL West thus far. Who do we have left? The Sacramento Athletics. So when I started doing this, my original thought was I want to talk more about the players that the teams that won the trade, right? Like the first team, you say this team got so and so, and then you're like, oh, and they, in return, the Athletics got this. But this deal is too big to not discuss, and I'll talk about it now with the A's, I guess, and maybe we'll talk more about it with the Padres here momentarily too. But they let go of who was supposedly untouchable, Mason Miller, their closer. There is a lot of speculation going around MLB Network that I was just watching that they're going to try and turn him into a starter at some point. Maybe not this year because the Padres did not get rid of Robert Suarez. I'm getting ahead of myself. But Mason Miller and J.P. Sears, left-handed starter, coming from the Athletics. What did the Padres give up? So before, when you see a trade come from Passan, you think, oh my God, Mason Miller got traded. Like, why couldn't we do it? Well, the A's got Leonidas de Vries, who is a top 5 prospect out of the Padres. They also got Braden Nett, Henry Baez, and Eduardo Nunez. Pardon the pronunciation there. But de Vries is the key piece. He's 18 years old. He's an A-ball. He's got a while to come, but he is a heralded prospect. He's consensus top 5 all across the board. And Preller's list of individuals that he trades is insane. So if you think you're going to get a prospect or want a prospect from any GM that's dealing, it is from AJ Preller. Trying to find the list right now. So just to name a few, he's traded Trey Turner, James Wood, Max Fried, Josh Naylor, Andres Munoz, Mackenzie Gore, David Bednar, CJ Abrams, Xavier Edwards, Zach Eflin, Hunter Renfroe, and DeVry, Ryan Weathers, Robbie Snelling, River Ryan. So some of those guys still haven't panned out to their ultimate potential, but he's traded some stars along the way here. So this being about the A's, they're just loading up for the future. They are stockpiling everything they can. Quite frankly, using Mason Miller as a reliever, he doesn't hold a lot of value to the A's. So kudos to them. I'm stunned that they got him for that. I'm more surprised that the Padres gave DeVry for it, but the way they operate, it does make sense. It kind of falls in line with everything they've got going on. They also they got Kenya Huggins for Miguel Andujar. That's more of a Reds win the deal type of thing. Who else did we have? Oh, we're going to call them the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I have no idea what this team is doing, what they're attempting to do. They're not really in the race. I believe they have like a less than 5% chance of making it anywhere as far as the postseason's concerned. But on the 30th, so yesterday, they had acquired Luis Garcia, the pitcher, and Andrew Chafin from the Nationals for Jake Eater and Sam Brown. So then everybody's like, wait, they're buying? They're not trading Taylor Ward? They're not trading Rengifo? They're not going to try and shop some of these guys that they can actually acquire assets for? And as we go through the rest of these trades, you're going to see that players were getting very good returns, and the Angels could have set themselves up for the future, but why do that when you have Artie Moreno at the helm? The other trade that they made was with the Yankees. They got Oswald Peraza, gave up Wilberson De Pena. Sure, I guess. Again, no real clue as to what they're doing. They very much could have got rid of Yohan Moncada, but they didn't. So I guess it remains to be seen. I'm sure they're going to have egg on their face. They didn't do the whole like actual buy thing where they try to buy and then they put those guys on waivers and you get to pick them up on September 1st. So I'm a little happy with that, but maybe there's still guys that they could put on waivers September 1st. And if the Mariners can make out with it, then I'm completely thrilled with it. That's the quick version of the AL West. I feel like I said East before, so if I did, I'm sorry, but that's the AL West. Give me a second here, get my stuff together. We're going to jump right back into the Central. All right, let's start with the Detroit Tigers. I'm going to keep it simple. These were all individual trades. So who did they receive? They received Kyle Finnegan. They received Rafael Montero. They received Chris Paddock. Chris Paddock from the Twins, Rafael Montero from the Braves, Kyle Finnegan from the Nats, and Josue Quinonez from the Phillies. Who did they give up? They gave up Matt Manning, who they just DFA'd the other day, so this makes sense. To the Nationals, they gave up Josh Randall and RJ Sales. To the Braves, they gave Jim Jarvis. And to the Twins, they gave Enrique Jimenez. They did get Charlie Morton as well. So as we speak, I'm trying to assemble all of these trades that took place. Not particularly easy at this point because it kind of hit the flurry of everybody. But they did get some starting pitching in Charlie Morton. I don't know how to feel about this team because you know how my thoughts are overall. I think that they were destined to come back to earth, and I don't think they did enough to get this team better. They made a couple bullpen moves. Finnegan's a nice add. Montero can be good. Paddock's solid. I think Paddock's actually going to be in the rotation, if I'm not mistaken. And Charlie Morton, he provides some stability there, in whatever way you want to call it that. So maybe this change of scenery from Baltimore to Detroit helps him a little bit. That remains to be seen, but I think they did okay. If you ask a fan on the street in Detroit, I don't think they're going to tell you that they're satisfied with what took place over the last couple of days. They could have been in on so many other guys. They could have added a few bats. They didn't do enough, in my opinion. I do think in a vacuum, a couple of those deals do make sense for the Mariners. I did want Kyle Finnegan as a bullpen piece, so I think they'd made a couple, again, good moves within a vacuum. But other than that, I'm not particularly thrilled with their outcome. I've talked a lot about the Twins and what they did was pretty crazy overall. The first thing I'll say is that the main get for them throughout all of this was in a trade with the Phillies. So this was yesterday. Johan Duran was moved, so that's their closer. He was moved for Mick Abel and Eduardo Tate. So pretty big deal. Mick Abel, one of their better pitching prospects. Of course, not Andrew Painter, but Eduardo Tate, supposedly ready for big league ball. We will see. That remains to be seen, but you're always taking the chance on prospects, especially if you're going to, be giving up your star guy. But Phillies make their move. They get Duran. Twins get Mick Abel and Eduardo Tate. So that's a big move on the benefit side of the Twins. The other move that was super interesting, kind of as the buzzer rang, or a couple minutes after the buzzer rang, Griffin Jacks got moved to the Tampa Rays. And one of those deals where I already talked about, you get very frustrated because you're like, I want my team to get Griffin Jacks. What the hell's going on? They probably gave him away. Not true. They received Taj Bradley in return. So the Twins know how to churn out pitchers. They know how to make them successful. They kept Joe Ryan. Whether or not he becomes a trade piece in the offseason is a whole nother story. They still have Pablo Lopez on their team. Bailey Ober is about to come back. I'm not saying that they're going to make a push this year, but they now have arms. Mick Abel should slot into the rotation this year. Who knows if they keep him down in AAA. But Taj Bradley getting added, and Mick Abel and Eduardo Tate are the two major pieces. With that said, I'm just going to do lightly what they gave up. Again, they traded 10 guys off of their 26-man roster, so they're going to be struggling to add all types of guys. If you're playing MLB The Show, you just be hitting free agency and just be like, who can I get on this particular team right now? So they gave up Carlos Correa. They traded Louis Varland and Ty France. They traded Willie Castro. We already talked about them trading Danny Colombe. They traded Harrison Bader, Chris Paddock, and who'd they get in return? Matt Mikulski, Kendrys Rojas, and Alan Rodin. That's from the Blue Jays. Ryan Gallagher and Sam Armstrong from the Cubs. Garrett Horn from the Rangers, Henry Mendez, and Jeremy Valoria from the Phillies. So two separate deals, one for Bader, one for Duran. We've seen that a couple times. The Seattle Mariners did that as well with the D-backs, where they went and got Naylor, and then in a completely separate deal, they went and got Suarez. I would love to be a fly on the wall for how those conversations break down and how they end up the way that they do and why those deals can't be done at the same time. However, two separate deals, two separate things. That is what the Minnesota Twins had done. The Kansas City Royals, another team who is in a weird spot, right? Do they sell? Do they buy? Is Michael Garcia actually on the trade block? The answer to that was at least no, or nobody tickled their fancy. They did receive Bailey Falter from the Pirates. That is a lefty arm. They did get Mike Yastrzemski, not showing up in my search currently, but I just know that from looking at Passan's tweets off the top of my head. They didn't really give up much. They gave up Evan Sisk and Kalen Moss for Bailey Falter, and they did get rid of Freddie Fermin for Ryan Bergert as well. I don't have much of a comment on that one, but the Royals didn't sell. They didn't necessarily buy, but they're going to stay afloat. They're going to give it their best shot. We talked about on the podcast where it almost felt like their time to be a seller was with Seth Lugo. And the minute that they extended him, was like, you know what, we're going to keep aiming for this. Cole Reagans might come back soon. Maybe they can go on a run. We know that they were super hot at the beginning of last year and kind of rode that into the postseason. So maybe that they can turn it on. Bobby Witt turns back into MVP Bobby Witt. Not that he's playing poorly, but you get my point. I think there's a lot for them to be happy about with the current team, but they didn't get rid of anybody. So they're ready to go. They didn't get rid of Estevez. They didn't get rid of Urseg. So all of these guys that were rumored to get moved, just not happening. Another team that was unsure. They're 2.5 back of the wild card now. They were rumored to night and day, or day and night, as far as who is going to get moved from this team. That is the Cleveland Guardians. The only move that I have found that they've made was they traded Shane Bieber to the Blue Jays, and they got Cal Steffen back, who was a decent return from what I understand. But Stephen Kwan was in everybody's report. Everybody was interested in it, of course. There was rumor that they wanted DeVry from the Padres for Stephen Kwan, and that didn't get done. So I don't know if these guys were actually available, if the asking price was insane. Many people, including myself, thought that once Emmanuel Clase went down with the gambling stuff, that they were just going to pack it in and start selling. They didn't. They're hanging on. They're going to try. I appreciate that in the way I think they're trying to prove to Jose Ramirez that even though he made the wrong decision, that they're just trying to show like, hey man, we're not going to sell the farm around you. We're not going to get rid of everybody and rebuild, because I think rebuilding around Jose Ramirez would be a very, very, very bad idea. I bet that they would get very ugly very quickly. And they didn't do that. So I hope that they struggle as a Mariners fan. I do hope that they don't do what they are setting out to do, but they didn't sell and they didn't buy. They kind of stood pat overall. Bieber could be seen as a big move, but he hasn't pitched all year. They didn't really feel like waiting for him, so they went and did their thing. Last team from the AL Central is the Chicago White Sox. I have them down here as just one move as of the last couple days. They moved Adrian Hauser to the Rays. They received Curtis Mead back. Curtis Mead was a former top prospect. He might still very much be a top prospect, may have graduated, but pretty decent bat, has potential, and the Rays are going to turn Hauser into an absolute stud as far as the pitching factor is concerned. So White Sox stand pat for whatever godforsaken reason. Luis Robert rumored to everybody and their brother. Mets were interested. Phillies were interested. Mariners were interested, but never really close to it. But there were a lot of teams that were making calls on him. I haven't heard much about if the ask was too much or if they actually even cared about trading him. I know he has some team-friendly options to him, so they might just pick it up and see what they could do in the offseason, maybe get more for a full season of Robert instead of, the 2 months. But that is the AL Central, and give me a second, and we are going to move on to the East, where there was a lot going on, at least from a Yankee Blue Jay perspective. All right, we're on to the AL East, and we're just going to start with the Yankees. Why, I don't know. I'm doing a disservice to our Jesse Squared friends with the Blue Jays, who have the best record in the AL. You know what? Give me a second. I'm going to delete this, and we're going Blue Jays. Fuck the Yankees for right now. So, touched on them already a little bit. The Blue Jays got Louis Varland and Ty France from the Twins. They gave up Kendrys Rojas and Alan Rodin for it. So, get Varland, bullpen piece, Ty France, a little bit of a depth piece, having a bit of a resurgence in Minnesota this year after Seattle ditched him. He had a tough time getting back on track, but he's a serviceable player. Good for them. They traded Will Wagner probably just due to roster space. They got Brandon Valenzuela back, but their big deal, and I shrugged it off with the Guardians conversation, but their big deal was getting Shane Bieber. And my question is, does he make an impact this year? Is he pitching in a playoff series if they get there? And I think the answer to that becomes super important to what they're doing. Yes, their team is good. Are they overperforming? Maybe. I think some of these guys come back to earth. So do these couple moves that they made get them to stave off the New York Yankees for the remainder of the season? I don't know the answer to that. I'm excited. I do hope that they do keep the Yankees at bay. That would be great to see, little old Blue Jay keep it moving. But I don't know if they did enough. I think they needed a more prepared arm. I know Bieber's close. He's working his way through the rehab starts. So they are probably privy to information that I am not. So he might be ready to go. And yes, he might be ready to pitch in a postseason matchup, pitch some big starts for them. And I think he's got a year of control on top of that, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am mistaken, well, I was wrong. Get over it. So that's what we got on the Blue Jays for right now. Let's move over to the Yankees. I know I made them second place here, but I just had to do it. So they went and did a whole ton of reliever business today. So they went after David Bednar from the Pittsburgh Pirates. They've received him. They received Jake Bird from the Colorado Rockies. Say we want about Jake Bird. His numbers are not very good at face value. I think we do have to take into account that he's pitching in Coors Field or was pitching in Coors Field. So we will see if Yankee Stadium does him a better service. You would think so. There was a lot of rumors of him going to a lot of different teams, so I think they like his overall stuff. Just his, as a fan, the minute you look at his number, you're like, man, I don't like that at all. They did get rid of Oswald Pereza. We already talked about that with the Angels, not going into that deal. They went and got Jose Caballero from the Tampa Bay Rays. They traded Everson Pereira and a player to be named later for him. And MLB Network said they might put him down in AAA, which I think is a crazy move. But he is a utility man to the T. I think the Yankees have a ton of them on their bench, so maybe he does go to AAA. But he's a speedster. He'll steal a lot of bases for you. He's very good defensively, and he's okay enough with the bat. I don't know if this was some sort of Anthony Volpe insurance, like, oh no, Anthony Volpe really has the yips and we can't fix him and we need Caballero to step up. I think it was a no harm, no foul type of addition to get Caballero. I think he's a solid Major League Baseball player. It doesn't move the needle. It's not the biggest deal that the Yankees need to make. As the buzzer sounded, Camilo Doval from the San Francisco Giants is heading to New York for Jesus Rodriguez, Parks Harbor, Tristan Vierling, and one other player. I am unsure of any of those. I would assume neither of them are very top prospects. Doval has had a weird past. He was very successful last year. He was rather unsuccessful this year. They gave the closer role, not the starting role, the closer role to Ryan Walker, who then lost it throughout the year. Doval regained it, and now he's going to be high leverage bullpen arm for the Yankees. I can't assume any of these, even Bednar, I can't assume any of these bullpen arms are going to dethrone Devin Williams. It would be a very, very, very big surprise to me. They might try and do some sort of committee thing, matchup thing based on strengths, right? Devin Williams throws a ton of changeups, all that type of stuff. So maybe that's what they are going for. But while the Yankees are super active, they made a ton of deals. They bolster their bullpen. The biggest question is Aaron Judge healthy? Is he going to be healthy the rest of the way? And did they do it? Is Ryan McMahon, we talked about him on the previous podcast, is he enough? Was he the key addition at the plate where he gets them over the hump? Cody Bellinger's having a very nice year. I think the pain point, I know a lot of Yankees fans, their pain point is the bullpen. So they feel confident that the bullpen is bolstered and ready to rock. Are they 100% confident in all these guys? I'm not sure. But they feel better today than they did yesterday, and they did get better. They're a better baseball team. Overall, what's the point of the trade deadline? To be a better baseball team than you were for a majority of the season. Did we get better? The Yankees can answer that question a emphatic yes, and now we move forward. This is your squad the rest of the way. This is who we picked, and don't forget they have Spencer Jones. They were able to hang on to him. I know he was wanted. They were in talks with Sandy Alcantara, or for Sandy Alcantara. They didn't want to give up Spencer Jones. I get that. So hopefully we see him up and he can be the next big thing. The Boston Red Sox. Boston Red Sox fans who are listening to this, I believe you are going to be very upset. Hopefully not with me, because your team didn't do very much of anything. I know our friend Steve, who does our Boston Red Sox preview has already been in touch. I am certain our boy Diddy will also be in touch. You can't be the Boston Red Sox and just pass on these types of opportunities to improve your team. Steven Matz was their biggest addition prior to today. They got Steven Matz for Blaze Jordan. Blaze Jordan was kind of stuck. I think he could have got Rule 5 picked in the offseason. So they had to get rid of him. They got Steven Matz. I would never be confident with putting Steven Matz out there. I know fifth starter. I hopefully you know my opinion on fifth starter. You need a guy who's going to eat innings, who can potentially win you a game. I know Matz has had a better season, but he does not instill confidence in me, especially in that AL East. The biggest move that they made, and the most surprising move, was they got Dustin May from the Dodgers. They traded James Tibbs III and Zach Ehrhard, Ehrhard. But Dustin May is coming. Same type of thing. Dustin May has electric stuff. Can the man stay healthy? If he can, he adds a formidable another arm behind Crochet, and they can Bayo and all of these guys, and they keep it moving. There was a ton of rumors that they were on the Twins about Joe Ryan, and that kept coming out. And the final hour, it was like these guys weren't even close. So I don't really know what the truth is. The Red Sox are known as the interest kings, right? They let it out that they're interested in anybody and everybody, right? And now they come away with 2 starting pitchers. They have no bats to show for it. They did not trade Duran. I don't know if they had how far the talks got with Cease, with the Padres. I know that's been a thing leading up to the trade deadline, but I can't help but think that the Boston faithful are going to be rather unhappy with what transpired over the last couple days. The Tampa Bay Rays, busy as normal. I never want to do a deal with the Rays. However, they gave the Seattle Mariners Randy Arozarena, and that's worked out tenfold for me. So I am thrilled about it. But generally speaking, when you're dealing with the Rays, they know what's going on. They know everybody, even your players, they know better than you do. I don't know how they do it, but they just turn these guys that are projects into budding stars, and then they make a haul on them every time. So I don't think they made any budding star type of moves, any huge hauls, but again, volume for them. They did trade Zach Littell to the Reds. That'll be more of a Reds deal. And it was a 3-team trade with the Dodgers as well. And they got Hunter Fiducia and Brian Van Bell. And the reason I actually want to name these guys is because it's the Rays. You're probably going to hear from these guys again in the near future because that's just what they do. They did trade Curtis Mead to the White Sox. They received Adrian Hauser. Again, Hauser having a solid season, probably going to turn into a household name with the Rays as he makes his way down to Tampa there. The Griffin Jax move from the Twins was a super surprise for multiple reasons. A, why the hell are they trying to trade for Griffin Jax? B, what did they give up for Griffin Jax? Because so many teams were involved. He was supposed to be going to every team that needed bullpen help. Every team wanted him. Every team was calling on him. I don't think there's a team out there that was going to match this trade. They gave up Taj Bradley. And say what you want, he's shaky, he's hit or miss, his ERA is a little high. He's like 22 years old. I'm not even looking that up. Andrew's not even here to check me. He's 22 years old. That's what I'm running with. He's young. He has time to figure it out. So this is I said all that stuff about the Rays and how I'm so confident in their pitching factory and what they're capable of and how they could turn guys out. So if they are going to trade away Taj Bradley, this top prospect, this 22-year-old, still trying to make his way, for a very high leverage, a very good reliever with control, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it because the Twins are very good at identifying talent as well and making pitchers formidable. They've done that countless times over the last couple of years. So I want to keep an eye on this trade going forward. This is one I will not grade for a couple years because we need to see how Taj Bradley turns out. It ends up being were the Rays right in saying this guy's washed and we don't have time, effort, or energy to try and make this happen? Or are the Twins saying, hey, this guy needs a little bit more coddling, needs a little more tender love and care, and we're going to turn him into a top line rotation arm? And quite frankly, I think either thing is possible at this point. I don't think there's a solid answer that could be had. So I'm excited to see what goes down there. I think the last team, I think I touched on everybody, Yankees, Red Sox. Yes, besides the Baltimore Orioles. Very much not adders. They are sellers. And the selling didn't get them very much. The biggest piece I would say that they added was Boston Bateman from the San Diego Padres. That's the biggest name that I'm aware of. They also got Brandon Butterworth, Tyson Neighbors, Cobb Hightower, Victor Figueroa, Tanner Smith. Yes, those all came from the Padres, by the way. But they gave up Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano. So two of their bigger bats. Obviously, rentals, not part of the long-term plan. So they kind of went for quantity, I would feel like, over quality. But it remains to be seen. Orioles always stockpile prospects. Maybe they could utilize them to turn them into more major leaguers in the offseason. We'll have to have RDT on to get his breakdown of what he thinks all of this means. But yes, O'Hearn, Laureano are gone. Entered 6 prospects who I don't know if any of them are going to be on the team this year. They trade Cedric Mullins to the New York Mets. They get Ramon Gomez, Anthony Nunez, Chandler Marsh. Again, don't really know their names. Quantity potentially over quality. Cedric Mullins out, fan favorite. Or not a little bit on the older side, not part of the grand plan. So I get it. Orioles ship him out. They also sent Andrew Kittredge to the Cubs for Wilfred De La Cruz. Sure, 1-for-1. Probably didn't care very much about Kittredge in the reliever market there. We already talked about them moving Ramon Urias, and they received Twine Palmer. I said he was playing the wrong sport before because he should probably be playing some basketball. Tickle the twine a little bit. But that is the AL East. And I was excited because it was, where I started with the Yankees saying, they made a ton of moves. And that's what they did. They made a lot of quantity type moves. Their bullpen got better. The Blue Jays, think got better. I think they're happy. I think they wanted a little bit more than what they finished with. The rest of the division, the Red Sox, they can't be thrilled. You could be happy with Dustin May, I suppose, but other than that, you're just Steven Matz isn't somebody to walk away with being satisfied. I truly don't believe that, but that's my take on the AL East. We've got the NL to cover, so again, give me another second. We'll get this done. All right, here we go. We've got the NL West is where we're going to start. There's no rhyme or reason for what I'm doing right now, but we're going to try and run through this. This is a solo pod. Again, if you haven't told, sorry about that. But we're pressing through, and this is for you. I'm trying to give you my takes. I want it. I need it. I personally need it. All of this was so that I could have the first 10 minutes of your time to talk about Eugenio Suarez and the Seattle Mariners. So let's jump into the NL West. We're going to start with who people believe had the most successful trade deadline, and that's the San Diego Padres. We touched on them when we talked about the Athletics, but they are receiving Mason Miller, stud, young reliever who they might try to turn starter, and starter JP Sears. They gave up top 5 prospect DeVry and a bunch of other guys. I already touched on them. The DeVry thing, I can't wrap my head around. I already talked about Preller and who he's traded already. I don't know. I don't know what to do, because when this happened, it was like, okay, they're probably going to trade Suarez. Dylan Cease is going to get traded. There was all these other moves that were going to domino effect because of this move. And honestly, nothing happened besides them just trading more more of their farm system and adding. They didn't trade anybody of note to any other team. They just hoarded all of these guys, and just like I would say for Seattle, they're going for it. And when Preller goes for it, he's the most aggressive form of going for it I've ever seen. So Mason Miller, JP Sears coming your way. Freddie Fermin from the Royals, backup catcher, coming your way. This one was like a throwaway ad. They added Will Wagner from the Blue Jays. I don't know if that was because the Blue Jays needed to get rid of somebody, but they added him. What he does for the Padres, I have no idea, but he's on his way. Talked about this with the Orioles a couple minutes ago. Ryan O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano, they gave up 6 prospects to get them. So we could just say 3 apiece. Ryan O'Hearn mashes righties. Ramon Laureano also mashes righties. O'Hearn could play first base. He could play the outfield. Laureano, I believe, should be able to play all 3 outfield positions. They could DH. They have a lot of flexibility now. This team is ready to rock. And just for good measure, they got Nestor Cortez nearest the 6 p.m. Eastern deadline. He's been out for a while. I don't know if he's completely prepared to go, but they didn't give up much for him. He's worth the stab from the Brewers. Brewers clearly don't believe in him or see them as part of his big future plan. So the San Diego Padres are here. They're in the Dodgers are in their sights. Playoffs are in their sights, and they are just ready to seize the moment and do whatever it takes to make the step. You can say a lot of things about a lot of teams. We talked about the Boston Red Sox, and we can shit on them for not really making the moves that we felt that they need to make. San Diego Padres, you can't have that problem. You can say they traded too much, they gave DeVry, and they shouldn't have. You can say that. But you cannot say they didn't try. And I have all the respect in the world for teams trying. I'm a Seattle Mariners fan. I'm going to go back to it. Seattle Mariners put all their chips on the table and still didn't move all their prospects. They made big moves where they otherwise normally didn't. I would call it as all in as I've ever seen the Seattle Mariners be. And if it doesn't work out, they tried. And trying, it means so much to me as a fan. It is weird, probably as a Padres fan, to be like, hey, we're trying and we haven't broken through that hump. We haven't blasted through that door yet. And Preller's mindset must be, well, we're going to keep kicking this goddamn door in until it breaks. So that's their plan. And let's see what the Dodgers did, who they are trying to chase down. Oddly, not very much. I'm looking at, so most of my things I'm looking at are on X, their Underdog MLB trade summary. So thank you, Underdog MLB, for your information here. So if I missed a couple deadline moves, I am sorry, but I'm not sorry. They got Alex Call from the Washington Nationals. I don't know how much of a difference that's actually going to make for this team. I truthfully have no idea. They got the James Tibb and Zachariah from the Red Sox. They didn't really do much else. I don't really understand. I was expecting the Dodgers to swoop in and just make everybody mad and pay with their billion prospects and just add more guys, make everybody bitch about the salary cap again because they added a guy that's going to make $50 million a year. But they didn't do that. And I'm not quite sure why, but if you have a middling team that you think should have made moves and you have a guys team with a lot of players hurt, you know the old adage of the GM doing GM speak, saying something along the lines of, hey, we're getting a great trade deadline edition. Our guy's about to come back from being hurt. And the Dodgers have a litany of people in that same scenario. So I think that they are okay in that regard. They have spent all the money. They acquired all the assets. I think that they are the most prepared team in the league, honestly, to sustain this damage. They're still winning or leading the NL West. Who knows if they grow the lead? The Padres are doing everything in their power to not allow them to do that. But I, I think they're going to be fine. I find the lack of moves staggering, but they still have so many guys that are hurt that will come back that I don't think it matters. They are the epitome of a team that is going to make additions without actually making additions. That's my take on the Dodgers. I still think they win the West comfortably. I think the Padres are playing for second place, playing for a top wild card, and trying to make their run that way. But I understand where the Padres are coming from. You got to try and go win that division. The Arizona Diamondbacks, sellers. They sold 3 of their main pieces that are on expiring deals. They sold Josh Naylor to the Mariners already. We already talked about that. Suarez, last night at midnight. They got Tyler Locklear, who's apparently going to start at first base right away. So happy for him as a Mariners fan. Happy for Locklear. He gets a spot. The Diamondbacks are ready to rock. They get their 2 years removed from Christian Walker replacement. And Hunter Cranton and Juan Burgos are bullpen arms. They're major league ready bullpen arms. So I do think they'll slot them right in and see what they have out of those guys. And maybe the trade does work out for the Diamondbacks, and we'll see. I did see, I don't have it listed here, but they did trade Jordan Montgomery. I think he went to the Brewers. So he's out all season. So how they managed to make that move, I have no idea. Maybe they just said, hey, here's half the money and you figure it out. But they've been done with him, and I know he was hurt this year. So I guess good for him. He gets a fresh start. And we did touch on the Rangers way earlier. Merrill Kelly is gone, so they did hang on to Zach Gallen. They received Cole Drake, David Hageman, and Mitch Bratt. I don't know much about these guys, so I do not know if they are going to make an impact right away like the Mariners guys. But the Diamondbacks did turn into sellers. You could call it a fire sale. They sold enough guys, enough big names to make it feel like a fire sale, I suppose. But they had to do it. They got some assets for some of their guys. No real problem overall. Rockies, I'm spending very little time. We already know they traded Ryan McMahon. They traded Jake Bird. They got Rock Riggio and Ben Shields. Don't know much about those guys. And they traded Tyler Kinley to the Braves for Austin Smith. Again, I'm sorry. I know very little to nothing about either of those guys. And I'm going to take a dig at Andrew, even though he's not here. I doubt that he even knows who Austin Smith is from the Braves. I doubt he even knows who Tyler Kinley is and where he would slot in the bullpen for the Braves. The San Francisco Giants, I guess they were busy, maybe. Yesterday they traded Tyler Rogers, Submariner, to the Mets for Jose Botto, Blade Tidwell, and Drew Gilbert. That was seen as a pretty big return, and was seen to people believe that was going to change the market for relievers, because the Mets gave up a good bit. Drew Gilbert, he hasn't cracked the majors yet, but he's a prospect that is supposed to be very good. We'll see. I'm ready to write him off, but he's worth taking a stab at if you're the Giants and trading away a reliever that you don't really care about or don't think is going to help you going forward. Which is crazy to say because Tyler Rogers is having a very good season. I think he's going to be very good for the Mets. They did get Cedric Mullins. We talked about that earlier, why he's not Nope, that's the Giants. Whoa, I went Mets there. Whoa, nobody's correcting me. We're kind of on a tangent, and my dog's going nuts. Please stop. Okay, I'm leaving it in. Screw it. Dog's going nuts. This is what you get for a solo pod. This is what you're going to get. I'm a man of the people. I am as gritty as they come. We're fighting through it. We had to calm them down a little bit, but we're ready to rock. So sorry, little mishap with the Mets. Got the dog barking. We're ready to go. We already talked about this with the Yankees, but Camilo Duvall shipped out, got a ton of what would I assume are prospects in return. The Giants just figure that they can replace their bullpen with this. They did trade Mike Yastrzemski to the Royals near the buzzer. I don't think they made any other moves. Again, I told you what I'm going off of here. So I think that's about it. So a pretty weird deadline for them too. Were they going to be sellers? They kind of sold some decent pieces, but they probably could have tried to move Robbie Ray. They could have tried to move Justin Verlander. Whether or not they did and people weren't at meeting the asking price is another story. But based on the litany of deals that took place, people were matching asking prices all over the goddamn place. So I find it very surprising. If you wanted to move a guy and you couldn't, it's probably a you problem. So Giants are the last team in the NL West, and I know I've taken, did a quick stop to kind of restart my thought process, but we're gonna keep it going. We're fuck it, we're doing it live. So we're on the Central. We're gonna start with the Cincinnati Reds. My man Dan and the Cincinnati Reds. So one of my underlying deals, or kind of a deal I thought the Mariners were going to make for some reason, was they went and traded for Ke'Bryan Hayes. They traded the other Rogers, that would be Taylor, to the Pirates, and Sammy Stafura, a very highly touted prospect for the Reds. So my Reds fan, Dan, wasn't particularly thrilled about trading Stafura, but Ke'Bryan Hayes shores up defensively. You have no problems, no questions, no concerns, no difficulties on the defensive end. Can he hit? Not really sure, but I am going to take change of scenery very seriously after I've seen what Andrew Vaughn has done for the Milwaukee Brewers. Andrew Vaughn got the hell out of that stupid situation with the Chicago White Sox, and he is flourishing with the Milwaukee Brewers, who have the best record in Major League Baseball right now. So I could only hope that Ke'Bryan Hayes turns it up offensively, becomes a very key contributor, and allows the Cincinnati Reds to make this playoff push. And I'd like to see them. The Reds are a fun team, cool little stadium, Homer Dome. Would love to see that in playoffs. Balls flying all over the goddamn place. Be great. 3-team trade happened yesterday evening into this morning, I guess. Zach Littell is coming their way. Not really sure what they're going to do. If he's going to be the bullpen arm, if he's going to slot in the back of rotation, what they're going to do with Nick Martinez. Hunter Green's coming back soon. They have a lot of figuring out to do, but their pitching staff as a whole, talking bullpen and rotation, got better. So Zach Littell, good ad from the Rays. Again, why the Rays get rid of him, I don't know. So proceed with caution, but he's having a nice year. It was a good pickup overall. Last deal, they get Miguel Andujar from the A's. Plays, I'll call him a utility infielder. I think he plays third and first. They kind of, first base is lost on them with CES not doing particularly well. Do the Reds wish they did a little more? Could they have done more? Yes. I think that they are one of the not most disappointing teams, but they're high on the list in terms of you had a chance to go for it. You have some pieces available in the minors. You have some guys you could have shuffled around, and they didn't do a ton. But again, maybe Ke'Bryan Hayes is the answer. Maybe he shores up everything defensively, and all of a sudden he's going to hit, be a 20 home run, 25 home run guy oh my God, I can't think of the name. I'm not going to think of the name at all. In Cincinnati. How about that? We'll just say in Cincinnati. Can't think of that's going to piss me off so much. I'm by myself. Nobody's going to look it up. Let's see. What's their stadium? This is on me. It is... Why is it not telling me? What is their name? The Great American Ballpark. Whoo! Wow, I'm sorry, everybody. I refuse to cut it, mainly because I don't know how. I'm joking, kind of. But because you deserve to see the rawness there. You deserve to see what goes on in between these in between these two earlobes. So here's another team that I don't. The NL Central, let's just say this. The NL Central was very disappointing in terms of moves. The Milwaukee Brewers really didn't do a ton I think they got... Where the hell did he go? Let's see. I am sorry about this one. My search is failing me. Where did he just go to? So no, sorry, Charlie Morton went to the Tigers. For some reason, I thought he went to the Brewers. The Brewers, I don't know. They didn't do a ton. I don't particularly love what they did. I mean, they added Danny Jansen a couple days ago. They traded Nestor Cortez. I think there was another deal in there that I'm missing. Let's see if I can find it here while I'm talking. But again, a team where you have everything in front of you. The division lead, right? The Cubs are breathing down your neck. Sorry, they got Shelby Miller, bullpen piece. So good for them, I guess, in that regard. But I just got a notification that Jackson Trio is about to hit the IL. So they're going to go through a little bit of a rough patch here, I feel like. And they could have been in on some of these guys that were mid-tier type upgrades, right? Your Rhino Hearns, your Ramon Laureanos, those type of players. I think the Brewers should have been more involved in that capacity, and they just weren't. And you can't be a team that has the best record in baseball and just not get better. So the question I posed for the Yankees is, did they get better? Yankees, yes. Did the Milwaukee Brewers get better? I'm gonna say no. And if the answer is yes, it's very marginally. Shelby Miller, if he moves the needle that much, then great, good for you. But I don't foresee many Brewers fans being particularly happy with everything that transpired over the last couple days. I'm not, as a fan that doesn't really care. I have a cool Brewers shirt. I wear it all the time. It's they're blue with the yellow, the MB. It's a whole thing. It's nice. I like repping the Brewers. I don't think I can wear it anymore. I'm embarrassed for them. So that's it. That's my take there. Let's move on to the Cubs. I sense, like I said, the Central didn't do enough, and Cubs fans should feel that too. They had a ton of guys that they could have moved. Casey, were they ever going to move Shaw? Probably not, but if they wanted to be a big-time player, they could have made a big-time move. Who did they land? Michael Soroka. He gave up Christian Franklin and Ronnie Cruz. They landed Andrew Kitteridge from the Orioles. They got Willie Castro from the Twins. So that is a good get overall. Utility guy, could play pretty much every position on the field. Hits pretty well. Former All-Star. They gave up Ryan Gallagher and Sam Armstrong. That wasn't very much. And they actually got Taylor Rogers from the Pirates for Ivan Brethrow. So big move, big additions, Michael Soroka, Willie Castro. Do you trust Soroka in Wrigley Field going forward? I don't, but I guess we'll see. I know he's having a little bit of a better year. We'll call it a bounce back year if that's what you want to call it. I don't think they did enough. Did they get better? Yes, they got a little bit better than, by percentage or however the hell we're quantifying this, but they got a little bit better than the Brewers. Willie Castro was the main piece. Soroka was okay, but Andrew Kitteridge, sure, he bolstered bullpen. They needed help everywhere. Taylor Rogers, he hasn't been very good. So I don't know. You're going with what you have. That's fine too. Screw it. We're going in. We're doing it live, right? But part of me fears that that's just not enough for the Cubs. And even if it feels a lot like if these teams from the Central get into the postseason, that they're going to flutter out, that they are going to get wailed upon by the likes of the studs of the West and the East that we're about to talk about here momentarily. That's I could be very wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. The baseball is better when the Cubs are good. They didn't do enough. They have a solid team. They have solid players. They have a solid makeup overall. But I can't get behind what they did this trade deadline. Pittsburgh Pirates are sellers. Who did they get? A ton of prospects. Rafael Flores is probably the main one from the Yankees. They got in the Bednar deal. Edwin Perez is supposed to be okay. Brian Sanchez also supposed to be okay. That Stafura they got from the Reds yesterday, he's supposed to be okay. So who knows what they actually do with him going forward. Jeter Martinez they received from the Seattle Mariners. All prospects, all guys that you would expect to hear in the next couple years. So whatever. They were sellers, but I don't think that they got very much in return. The speculation for Bednar was that they were going to land some teams' top 5 prospects. I believe Rafael Flores was the Yankees' 8th. Did they fail? I don't know. They got rid of them. They got 3 prospects. Maybe one of them pans out. They're also the Pirates, so they're going to cry broke. So they probably saved themselves a couple $100,000 throughout the remainder of the year. Who knows? Maybe they saved a nice $1 million. Nutting can go buy himself a new pair of shoes or something. So whatever. They're a joke of a franchise until I see them actually do something to support Paul Skeens. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but we'll talk about them in the offseason and see if they actually change my mind in that regard. Last team in the Central, St. Louis Cardinals. Another team that was hit or miss. Are they going to sell? Are they going to buy? Are they going to do absolutely nothing? And I wouldn't say it wasn't nothing. They did trade Ryan Helsley to the Mets for Jesus Baez, Nate Dom, and Frank Ellisalt. So not 100% sure how great that particular return was. Let's see. I'm trying to look at what else they did. They traded Steven Matz away, so maybe that's a net positive. They got Blaze Jordan coming. He's been mashing in AAA for the Red Sox. Didn't really have a spot on the Red Sox team, so maybe he makes his way up at some point if they end up falling apart. They traded bullpen arm Phil Matone. But all those guys that are for the last 3 years have been talked about at the deadline. Alec Burleson, Brandon Donovan, Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman's gone, I think. Disregard Nolan Gorman. Strike him from the record. But all of these guys that are, even Sonny Gray, Nolan Arenado, these guys that have been named every single time the Cardinals get talked about at the trade deadline, didn't hear a peep. I don't know. I'm interested if somebody comes out with the story of, hey, they were close, somebody was close to a deal, or if it was just, we're just going to ride with what we've got going on. And I guess I don't fault anybody for doing that, but the Cardinals feel like they are kind of hovering around in a spot where they're not going to benefit. I'm hesitating because I'm trying to look. All right, they're 5.5 back of the Wild. They're a completely 500 team, so they're epitome of mediocre. They're a 500 baseball team. They're 5.5 out of the Padres. I don't see it unless another team crumbles, unless the Cubs or Brewers crumble down the stretch. Maybe that opens up that other spot there. But they didn't sell. I off the top of my head, I don't know who's on contract deals or anything like that, so I don't want to speak out of line. But whatever. The Cardinals are the Cardinals, and we'll move on. Let's go to the East. A lot of stuff happening here. We'll start at the top. Philadelphia Phillies were very, very, very active. The biggest deal was them getting a lights-out closer. Jordan Romano has not been the answer. So with just this deal, did the Phillies get better? Answer is yes. John Duran coming their way. They did give up Mick Abel and Eduardo Tate, but they were able to hang on to Andrew Painter. I think every Phillies fan feared that Andrew Painter was going to be involved in some key addition, and he wasn't. So that's a positive. If you can walk away with your guy, with your top prospect that you don't want to move at all, then I think it's also successful, right? They made some moves. They got better. They're more surefire on the back end. I think that I wanted Duran. How about that? I'm a little sad. And on the flip side, they went and got another outfielder. They got Harrison Bader. That's another like mid-tier guy that who was I talking about? I think somebody the Brewers could have went and tried to get just to make him better. He hits left-handers pretty well. Plays great outfield for Hendry Mendez and Jeremy Villarreal. And then they went and got Matt Manning. I think this was the epitome of we're going to take a stab at this guy. and see what he's got because he's a former top draft pick, former first rounder. So we'll see what they do there. But generally speaking, the Phillies got better. They got Duran. I think that's it. I'm not sure that, another team that has a guy coming back is the Philadelphia Phillies. Aaron Nola. He'll be coming back soon. What a great addition. What a trade deadline move they have with Aaron Nola on his way back. But Duran was the key closer of they got the number one piece in the closer market. They set the price. Mick Abel was a big deal. Eduardo Tate is supposedly a pretty top prospect for them as well. Phillies were active. Dombrowski loves to make moves. Is it Dombrowski? Did I make that up? Yes. Dombrowski loves to make moves. He felt that they were prepared to, make more. They were still in conversation for some other big names, but nothing else really came to fruition. So Duran, Harrison Bader, and I guess we'll say Matt Manning. But this team's ready to rock. They're in postseason mode. They're right in the mix with the Mets. They're a half game out. They're 4.5 on the Reds, who are outside of the wild card. Smart money's on them making the playoffs. Remains to be seen if they're going to win the division. That's going to be an interesting to watch all the way through. But let's move on to the team that they're going to be neck and neck with the rest of the way, and that is the New York Mets. They got Tyler Rogers. Talked about that. Submariner, reminiscent of their former Chad Bradford, also Submariner. So they got better. Again, they got better right then and there. Then they went and got Ryan Helsley. So they're 7, 8, 9. I'm assuming Diaz is still going to be the closer at the end of the day, but Helsley being 8th, Tyler Rogers probably being 7th, flip them around. I don't know. Pick your high leverage spots. Bullpen, much better off. Cedric Mullins, probably their center fielder going forward. Again, simple question. Did my team get better? And if you're a New York Mets fan, the answer is yes. Could you want them to do a little bit more? Absolutely. There's always more to be done. I wanted the Seattle Mariners to do more, but guess what? They didn't, and I'm okay with it. I'm not upset. They made the moves that they needed to make. The Mets are in first place. They have a full, setup of guys. I know they were kind of torn on Vientos. Like, can they include him in a trade? Can they get that much better? They were also on the phone with anybody and everybody about every, possible concoction of players, right? Because some of these teams, the Marlins, we expected more selling, right? Anthony Bender, Sandy Alcantara. Expected Dylan Cease to be out and about. Joe Ryan. Like, all these guys that were being floated out didn't get moved. They were held. They were coveted. Teams probably offered a ton, and at the end of the day, teams stood pat. I don't know if they just didn't get the ask price they wanted, or it's like, hey, we're gonna roll the dice and we're gonna try this again with this guy and see what happens. But so I'm not going to fault the Mets because we don't know what some of these asking prices were, but they made 3 solid additions to their team. They really didn't give up anybody of note. The first trade for Tyler Rogers, the Budo, Blade Tidwell, and Drew Gilbert, was seen as an overpay by most everybody. But again, if you're going for it and he's, this submarine guy who's got a 1-point-something ERA that's going to change everything you've got going on, then you go and make that deal. 3 teams left, and they're not teams that they didn't really do anything. A couple deals here and there. Well, I lied. The next team after this one will be sellers. All right, let's get back on track here. We're almost done. Atlanta Braves. They didn't sell. I don't know why. I don't know if their asking prices were too high. What the hell is going on? They traded Rafael Montero. They traded for Tyler Kinley. They traded for Carlos Carrasco. Like, I don't really know what they're doing. They had a chance to try and sell a guy like Ozuna. They had a couple other pieces that they could have tried to move. They didn't. The I'm smarter than you type of mentality isn't so cool when you don't win, when you're not winning, when your guys aren't performing to the expectations that you have. So I maybe this is very much just a season for the for the Braves where you just flush it and try again next year. We're going to run it back. But I think fans are starting to grow impatient by what's actually taking place. So we'll see what happens with the Braves going forward. But not a good trade deadline in any way. They shouldn't add. Their record's horrific in terms of that regard. But they probably could have sold a few guys and got some return for them. Washington Nationals. Litany of prospects. So they got 6 pitchers, 2 outfielders, 2 infielders. So it's at 10 total prospects for 6 players, 5 of which were on expiring contracts, and 1 that was not on an expiring contract. And 1 not a part of. Oh, sorry. They traded Alex Call, but he's not part of the thing. So who did they get rid of? Luis Garcia, Andrew Chafin, Michael Soroka, Kyle Finnegan. That was the one. So that one was weird. Like last year, they didn't get rid of him. Nobody wanted him, or their price was too high. And then nobody signed him all offseason, so he just came back to the Nats, and now they were able to trade him. And they did some weird stuff with his money. But whatever, Finnegan's gone, Alex Call's gone. They traded Ahmed Rosario to the Yankees a couple days ago. So again, ton of prospects coming in. I don't know if it's anything that changes the world, but they are the Nationals. They're probably going to need a couple of these guys to show up, start a game or two, come out of a bullpen, pinch hit. Maybe not this year, but these guys are going to be part of the Nats organization now. So you can get that call anytime. So kudos to them. But they could have inquired a little bit more or required a little bit more from some teams, but it is what it is. Last but not least, Miami Marlins. They did not trade Sandy Alcantara. They did not trade Anthony Bender. They have a couple guys as far as young core is concerned. So who did they trade? They traded Nick Fortes to the Rays. That's a backup catcher. They got Matthew Etzel. And then they traded Jesus Sanchez. They got back Ryan Gusto and 2 other fellows as well. But Gusto's a starting pitcher. That was the Marlins' whole ordeal. Again, they were probably on the phone all day in regards to Sandy Alcantara. And nothing got done. So they ride, I guess. I don't know if he's on an expiring contract, because if so, then that's a terrible decision. But if he's back for next year, then sure, maybe you could ship him out in the offseason. So listen, I know I took an hour, 12 minutes, 10 seconds and counting of your time. If you have hung around for this whole thing, I greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you. This is solo. This is my first solo run. But I felt the need to have to break down this trade deadline for anybody and everybody, because this was crazy. I didn't count the amount of trades, but I tried to. That's why I had to go to my Twitter to run the Underdog MLB search, because I was trying to write everything down. I was like, man, I've been writing for 25 minutes and I have 2 divisions done. And then how do I make it work? So hopefully you like the format. Hopefully you love the intro. I know that was huge, but thank you so much for listening. Until next time, this is the Coach's Sons podcast. My name is Chris, and we'll see you later.